This conference will now be recorded.
And so we'll take roll call. I'm going to go ahead and call this meeting to order. Here.
Too many gadgets. Okay. Mayor Ambrosio Hernandez, FAR. Mayor Chris Boswell. Commissioner Nerith Glonsky.
Present.
Thank
Present.
you. Mayor David Suarez. I see your name
Here.
there. Thank
Here.
you, sir. Mr. Jim Darling.
Here.
Commissioner David Garza.
Here.
Commissioner David Fuentes. Commissioner Pilar Garza. Councilman Johnny Garcia. I see him up there. Thank you, sir. Mayor Rick Salinas. Mayor Rick Salinas. He was on there. Do you see him?
I see which is city light.
Okay. Mayor Javier Villalobos McAllen. Mayor Oscar Montoya. Councilwoman Nori Garza. I see her name. Nori, are you there? Mayor Jorge Ledesma. Where are you? Oh, hi. Come on up here, sir. Come on up to the board table. Alderman David Tumlinson for Rancho Viejo.
Good afternoon. I'm here. Thank you.
Thank you so much for sitting in for Mayor Guerrero.
Yes, ma'am. Anytime.
Commissioner Edward Gonzalez.
Here.
Mayor Rick Guerra, San Benito.
Here.
Thank you, sir. Commissioner Marco Viegas, San Juan. Mr. Richard Sanchez, UTRGV. Mr. Paul Hernandez. Ms. Maricela De Leon. Mr. Troy Allen. Mr. Ron Mills.
Here.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Eleazar Garcia. Mr. Sergio Contreras. Thank you, sir. And Ms. Lupita Sanchez Martinez.
I'm here. Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone.
Thank you. We have a quorum, Mr. President.
Ma'am, did you count me in attendance? Is this,
Yes, I did. Thank you, sir.
Ms. Debbie, this is Johnny Garcia. I'm here too.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you all. Okay, so we'll move forward with item B, the invocation. And Mayor Darling was kind enough to do that. Please stand.
Our head, please. Dear Lord, bless us as we gather here today to conduct business that will affect the citizens of the Rio Grande Valley. Give us a clarity of mind to act in their best interest, not ours. We ask that you bless our speakers and that you would bless our time together today. May we grasp those things that you want us to understand. May our actions and our attitudes please you this day. We pray these things in your mighty name. Amen.
Remain standing, please. Please the flag. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one
One
nation.
nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please be seated. Item number 2, consideration and action to approve meeting minutes of May 26th of 2021. I entertain a motion.
Nori Garza, move for approval. Second.
Okay, we got 2 motions and 2 seconds. All right. I have a motion on the floor. Any more discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 And all opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Line item number 3, public comments and/or report from legislative delegation. No. And not to start a conversation, but it seems that the governor was going to be here today, right? In the valley. Okay, so we move on. Item number 4, administration, Manuel Cruz.
Yes, Mr. President, Judge, thank you. Great to see everybody. We're getting one step closer. I see there's a presence in the room. A lot of people here, so thank you for making time and effort to come. For those online as well. The first item A, this comes at the request of the board, a request of the board that to make contact with the county appraisal districts to extend, obviously, an invitation to present on the topic of the process and or authority the appraisal districts have on property tax increases. And if there's a process, especially or for local governments that can request a deferment or freeze, especially in the times of natural disasters, man-made disasters. So I was fortunate enough to contact Mr. Orlando Garza. Luckily, I found all the chief appraisers at lunch, which was, that was good. So I was able to get their request or present the request, and they were able to make time to present here before you today. So here today, I'll turn it over we have here today Mr. Orlando Garza from the Hidalgo County Appraisal District and Mr. Richard Molina from Cameron County Appraisal District as well. So I'll turn it over to the gentleman that will be providing the presentation.
Thank you to both of you for being here.
Thank you, Mr. Cruz. Thank you, everybody, for allowing us to be here and to just to run down on the appraisal district and the process of what we do. I know there was some concerns about, disasters and stuff in that nature. And we just, what we did was we compiled a presentation for you all. Again, we did have lunch together to meet each other and get some ideas. Of course, my name is Richard Molina. I'm with the Cameron. And I have here Rolando Cruz from the Hidalgo. Rolando Garza from the appraisal. Rolando used to work for me, sorry. And then we have Rosalba from Star. And then we brought our other backups here. We have Sonia from Star. I have Hector and Ram. They're my managers from Cameron. And Loretta's my executive assistant. So if you ever need me, she will definitely find me. Trust me. If our presentation, if you have it available on, okay, how do I? You'll control it? Okay, so if we go to page, I guess it's going to be page 3. It's after the introduction here. There we go. Okay. This is just a rundown of how the appraisal district was established and why it was established. Okay. The appraisal district was established in the 66th legislature in 1979. It took the Pivotal Bill, which was what took all this to get it appraisal districts in one county, one appraisal district for one county. If you recall, many years prior to the 1982 period, if you had property tax bills, you more than likely had more than one appraisal done on the property tax bills. Okay, that was because the cities, the county, the school districts at that time, they could do their own appraisals. And that's where the Pivotal Bill came in. He pushing it to where we have one equal, a uniform bill to have one for one county. And that's where the development of the appraisal districts came in. And in 1982 was the first starting of the appraisal district. 6.01 of the property tax code. The property tax code is where we get a lot of our guidance from. 6.01 deals with the administrative part and the establishment. The appraisal districts, we are all considered political subdivisions of the state. We are established in every county of the state. We are governed by our board of directors, okay? In every, if I can chime in there, we are not part of the county. Everyone has this notion that we are a subdivision of our individual counties. False statement. We are, again, a political subdivision of the state of Texas. We have our own board of directors, which are chosen or elected by the different taxing entities, the county, the city, and the school. Every 2 years, we have what's an election. And in Cameron, they do it a little bit different than in Hidalgo, but it kind of follows the same process. But we are not part of the city. We are not part of the school, nor are we a part of the county. The county judge does not tell us what we do. And I think that's one of the biggest false statements out there that, you know, I know judge, I'm sure they call you
Yes.
as they call my county judge and they say, what is your guy doing over there? And
Yes.
my county judge calls me and of course he tells me, what are you doing? And I tell him, I'm doing my job. But he cannot tell me basically what to do. I have a board of directors. I have 5 directors, actually 6, because the county tax collector is also in my county, a non-voting member. He sits on the board by law. Okay. So, and again, I wanted to interject there because everyone thinks that we are part of the county and we're not. Okay. So,
Yes, and I think that at the county level, right, we pretty much understand that. And as a matter of fact, at least from where I sit, I make it a point to make sure that I limit my conversations with the appraisal district because, Mr. Garza, you're correct. And they stay on its own. I know you have your own process as to if somebody wants to challenge what you taxed or how you taxed it or what have you, there's a process, but it's totally has to do with y'all's.
and we're going to get into that in the next few minutes.
Yeah,
but again, I wanted to reiterate that we are not part of.
I'm glad you're clarifying that. I think where it probably gets misconstrued is probably at the city levels. That because I know that Mayor Molina was the one that brought it up.
And he's one of my mayors. I have, you know, so I've dealt with that situation.
Right.
But that is correct. They did pass a resolution asking us to freeze our values for 2021. And I think that's why we're here today. And I mean, we'll go through the presentation. At the end, I'll make the statement of can we or can't we, you know, kind of hold you on suspense for a few more minutes.
Okay.
Okay.
Go ahead.
But,
Sorry.
Again, we're not part of any county, city, or school government in our respective counties. And as chief appraisers, we are the chief administrator of our office. And we are appointed, because we're not elected, we are appointed by our board of directors. Okay. They hire, the board of directors has basically 3 functions. Establish the office, make sure that it has a budget to run it. Choose the chief appraiser, you know, hire and fire the chief appraiser, and approve the budget. Those are the 3. Have an office, have a budget, hire a guy or, you know, an individual to run that office. Okay. And, you know, the 3 of us here are the chief administrators of our respective offices. And that's correct. The biggest purpose of the segregation between us and the jurisdictions, of course, is because we want to make sure everybody understands we're fair to every entity. And that was the whole purpose of the separation. That way, we're not directly doing it for the county, where the county could direct us in property valuations of any kind, or the city, or if anything. And that's why the appraisal districts were established at that part, okay? If we could go to the next slide, please.
And I just want to, this is Commissioner Garza. You know, I want to add that there's 2 other functions that we do. I happen to serve on the appraisal district in Cameron County. Elected officials can serve on the appraisal district. We also hire an attorney for the appraisal district, And we also hire an accounting firm to do the audits for the appraisal district. Those are the other two functions that we perform as an appraisal district board.
That's correct. Furthermore, Rolando touched on the chief appraisers and how we're selected. Of course, it is through the board. Of course, the boards work for taxing jurisdictions, and the chief appraiser must be certified, though. They must contain either an RPA, an MAI, an AAS, a CEA, or an RES to be eligible to be appointed. There's been a lot of, if you keep up with legislation, which I'm pretty sure many do here, if you keep up with legislation, you always see in there year after year where they're trying to make it an elected position. The real question is, would somebody really, it'd be hard to run, what are we going to promise, that we're going to lower your tax rates, or, it's just a thing. The designation is a substantial thing of it, because we have to make sure that we're obliging by the property tax system and making sure it is done correctly. And that's why the certification comes in this place. To add a little bit more to.
Excuse me, sir. I have two questions. One is from the onset, I just wasn't able to get in there. So prior to 79, before the creation of the individual county districts, how was the appraisal executed? Who was responsible for that?
The individual taxing entities, the city, the county, and the school had their own appraisers. So they would each have their own appraisal, and that's where Mr. Molina said the county could have one value, say $100,000 for a piece of property. The school district had it at $120,000, and the city had it at another value, $80,000. So you had three different values. The property owner would have to go to each individual office to protest or to appeal their valuation for that year. So each office had their own set of appraisers, their own maps, their own everything. It was done individually prior to 1982. And again, that's why the legislature thought it was a good idea to have one central office where the appraisals are done. And if the cities or the county or whatever entity wants to give exemptions, they're applied for and we administer them. There's the homestead exemptions. There's also some exemptions at the cities that they can grant on their own. And added, if a school district is mandated by law for the homestead and the over 65, cities can give an optional exemption. If they want to put $50,000 for an exemption, be my guest. Do whatever you want to do. Pass a resolution to do that. We'll administer it for you. Okay. So but there's going to be one value for each piece of property. And then if you want to take off exemptions, we do that.
So on that last note right there, because I myself also serve as a director on the appraisal district. On that last note, and then you mentioned it there. So does the county chief appraiser have the sole responsibility once they to select that appraisal rate or that appraisal, or are his hands tied with something that is sent down by the state?
I am responsible, as my counterpart here from Cameron and Starr County, I am responsible to put a value on each piece of property every year. I'm the one that has to do it. My name goes on it. I have to sign a report. I'm the one doing that appraisal. So as they say, the buck stops here. I did it. I do hire staff to help me, but ultimately I am the one that's doing it. There are some provisions, and we'll go over, why do I do it? Because the law says I have to do it. That's the bottom line. The law says I have to appraise every piece of property every year, and I get checked on it. Probably.
Right. So the law says that I understand that portion. My question, I guess, was a little further. So, but you said something about the buck stops here. So whatever you, through your experience, through your knowledge of appraisal, what you set as the appraisal for a particular property is it. Of course, there's room for appeals from the property owner, but whatever you set as a appraisal for a 2,400 square foot on this particular neighborhood in this particular town, that's what will stand. Nobody else can govern how you appraise that particular residence.
There is a process that the property owner can go through, and we're going to cover that as well. But in a very short note, it's I appraise the property. I then notify the property owner of my decision. The property owner then has a time period where they can appeal that valuation. If we come to some agreement, great. If we don't, then they have the option to go to the appraisal review board. They file an appeal. We will then set up a hearing, and that's what's going on right now. I left my office and we had probably about 200 people there that we have hearings today. And
Let me ask that question again. I understand the process.
Okay.
Experienced it myself as a property owner and now that I'm on the board. But my question was, what you said, whatever you said as an appraisal for a particular property, forget about appeals and all that, below you. There is no one above you that can ask you, well, we don't think that's what that property should be appraised at. I think that property for that square foot and property should be appraised at this amount. So, because you set by law, is there any law above you that can change your, not below you or not appeals, not the property owner, but above you, that it says, no, you're appraising properties and houses too low for the lower Rio Grande Valley in your particular area?
And the answer to that is no. I am the one who sets the value for each piece of property, so I am responsible for that.
Thank you. Judge Aurelio,
Yes, sir.
can we have him do the presentation and reserve questions till the end so we won't be here all day?
Yes, I was about to say that I think that maybe during the presentation, those questions will be answered automatically. Go ahead.
Correct. And just getting back into the presentation, that the reason we have to do what we do, if it goes through the property tax code in section 23.01, it states that we have to appraise every property at market value every year. Again, there's no changes as to if we can or can't based off of conditions, because in reality, what we're doing, we're just setting the appraised value. That is what we're doing to the property, and that's the simple definition of appraised value. It's in the next slide, I believe. It's what is market value? It says a simple definition of market value is the amount a willing seller and a willing buyer would agree on. It must have been on the market for a reasonable time and open to any party to purchase. That is what determines market value. And we do get a lot of challenges, and we understand that, there's many people that aren't interested in selling their property, and they say, well, why are you basing it off of market value? The issue is that's what's required. It's just, all we're trying to say is, if you were to sell your property today, based off of our analysis, market value is X factor on your piece of property. And of course, that's where, as Rolando stated, that's where the notices come in. That's why we notify anybody that has a value change of any kind. It's listed on the websites. Again, we try to do as much as we can with the resources we have to make sure the taxing, the taxpayer, understands what their property value is. I think last year we started the postcards, now directing them to another website where they can see it along with the tax rates as they're being generated. So every year or every 2 years when legislation comes in, trust me, there's more added work into what we do. It's just, and it's not to make our job easier. It's actually, if anything, it's for us to become more transparent to the taxpayer and allowing the taxing entities to put their tax rates, where it can be seen from another source than just ours. Okay. Next page, please. here's the 5 basic rules of the property tax, and this is why we do it, okay? It says taxation must be equal and uniform. That's one of the biggest reasons why we have to do this every year, to make sure that it is equal and uniform. No single property or type of property should pay more than its fair share. The property taxes you pay are based on the value of the property you own. Number 2 says, generally, all property must be taxed based on its current market value. That's the price it would sell for when both buyer and seller seek the best price, and neither is under pressure to buy or sell it. 3 says, each property in a county must have a single appraised value. This means that the various local governments to which you pay property taxes cannot assign a different value to your property. All must use the same valuation. That was the reason for the creation of the appraisal districts. 4 says all property is taxable unless federal or state law exempts it from the tax. These exemptions may exclude all or part of the property's valuations. Property owners have a right to reasonable notice of increases in their appraised property value. That's why the property tax code requires us to send notices if there's an increase, a change in ownership. We've adopted even 1 penny more than last year. We send you a notice. It gets difficult to send every taxpayer a notice. It only will drive the budget up higher, but if we were to do every property owner. Now, some counties probably do, some probably don't, but the tax code actually says it should be if it's over 1,000 or more. But we adopted 1 penny. I'm not sure where Rolando stands on that one.
I have 400,000 account, so I've taken the position of if your value did increase by more than $1,000, you're not going to get notified. And $1,000 in an increase in value is not that much in property taxes, of course, depending on the tax rate. So even so, with that limitation on Hidalgo County, we still send out about 250,000 notices every year. Right now, we have about 40,000 protests that we're processing, and we have a very short window to process. That it starts in April, and I have to certify my values by July the 25th. So again, it's only a few months, and we're hearing all these property owners and their protests. And again, the reason we do it is to be equal and uniform. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Right. It's about the same. We've had, last year we had right at 40,000 as well. I would say for the last 5 years, we've had anywhere from 35 to 40, 42,000 protests in any given year. As far as the notices, about the same. We send out about 250, anywhere from 200 to 250,000 every year. And again, those are only those accounts that increase by at least $1,000 or more. You can go in. Why do we do what we do? And this mandatory compliance. Again, I think the question was asked, am I the final word? Why do we do what we do? Well, we do it because of basically school funding. That is the major process, the major reason why we do this. School funding is dependent on my values. What happens is the comptroller's office, every year they do either a property value study or what's called a MAP review. A MAP review is a methods and procedures audit. So one year, the comptroller comes into my office and says, I want to see all your documents, all your procedures. Are you doing it right? Not if my values are correct, but are you running your office correctly? They will be at my office literally for at least a week, one of their employees, going over each and every document. Because of the size of my county, we have about 100 questions that we need to answer. And I will literally compile about 6 of those big notebook things of the information I need to present to them. And they literally go through that whole 6 binders every 2 years. On the other year, the comptroller comes in and they do a property value study. And what they do is they take a sample of properties. And I'm going to do real simple. They'll take 10 pieces of property on residential. Either they have a sale or they do their own appraisal and they compare it to mine. I have to be within 95% to 105% of their value. If I'm not, I'm in trouble. If I'm at 90%, they slap my hand and they give me this report that says I'm at 90%. They advise all the superintendents that I'm at 95%. The first year they'll give me a break. Then they'll do it again the next year, even though they're not scheduled to, but because I failed, they'll do it again the next year. And if I'm low again, now the school district is going to lose funding. If I'm appraising property at 90%, then that school district will only get 90% of school funding that the state is allotting them because of my values. So that's why we do what we do. So I have to be within 95 to 105% of market value. And I can tell you right now, in Hidalgo County, right now I am suing the comptroller's office for 2019 for Mission ISD because I failed the property value study. I'm very close, but I still failed it. I already passed. They did another study in 2020 and I passed it. And you can say, well, just drop 19, who cares? The thing is, if I have 2 years within a 3-year period, the school is going to lose funding. And that's going to look bad on me. So that's why we do what we do. Okay.
Just to add a little bit to that also is one of the things we have to remember too is that, you know, the performing the property appraisal is one thing, but performing it at 95 to 105 does make a big difference because it's a budget aspect too, because when we look at, you know, if we're not conforming to that rule to every section of the county, and I'm going to I'll give you 2 examples. One is the residential side, okay, and then the other is the commercial side. Those are the 2 biggest factors, you know, when it comes to property valuations. If we're praising residential at, let's just say we're at 100%, we're right on residential, and we're at, let's just say 80% on commercial. And we've gone through the appeal process. We've done all our due diligence to make sure that the comptroller is correct, or that, you know, to make sure our information is correct. And in the end, it's a total valuation that they use to determine tax rate. By that, it can drive your tax rate up. Okay, that's one of the things it can do. But is it making everybody pay their fair share is the question. The commercial, if it's a true statement and you're showing 80%, you're actually down, you know, on valuation there. Whereas if the total valuation was put to 100, just like the residential, you're going to have more valuation, which will also help you, you know, keep your rate down. So one of the things, and it did happen in Cameron, you know, that's one of the, you know, Rolando failed 1, we failed 2, we were able to get 1 back in, but they're the big ones. We failed the commercial side. And we actually had to go and do a total reappraisal of our commercial site to go from the 80 to now we're roughly at 94 countywide. So that's pretty close. That's a lot better than the 80. You're talking billions and billions of dollars. And by that, you know, did we rough some feathers? Yes, we did. Trust me. You know, it's David Garza knows he gets a lot of the complaints, you know, from our area. I'm sure Mr. Boswell probably heard some stuff too, because they're in Harlingen. That was one of our areas. It was Harlingen, Brownsville. Those are our 2 biggest major commercials. But it was something that we had to do, and it's just about making it equally uniform for everybody.
Probably, I'm going to say half. And of those half, probably 80% of them are done through my staff, through agreements, and the other 20% will be actually going before the appraisal review board. Approximately.
I had a question. Can an individual taxing entity still contest a classification like all residential within their city?
Yes, they can. And that's the only thing either the county, the city, or the school can do. They cannot appeal an individual property. They have to do the entire classification. And it's called a challenge, entity challenge. The last one I remember having was from McAllen.
And we said it was too high. Residential.
Yes, and that kind of goes into the slide that we have here. And the real reason why we're here is how does a disaster play into the appraisal process? And in 2020, the governor did declare a disaster because of the pandemic. We as a group, as an organization, all the appraisal districts in the state of Texas, we asked, can we freeze the values? And the real answer to that is no. But if we have an order from the governor's office, then we can do it, because that stops the comptroller from coming in and valuing my property, checking, am I doing it right? And the governor asked the attorney general, and the attorney general said no. And I have, it is Attorney General Opinion, 299? And whoever wants a copy, I have it here. But simply it says, the Attorney General said no. The pandemic does not qualify as a disaster relief where I can grant relief to freeze values or do anything else. So again, we were told not to do it. We cannot do it.
Right. And that's basically, in all honesty, what triggered this presentation, in all honesty. That's what came up.
Yeah.
And I'm glad that you guys are explaining it in more detail.
Yeah, and it says purely economic, non-physical damage to property caused by the COVID-19 disaster is not eligible for a temporary tax exemption provided by Section 1135 of the Property Tax Code. And that is from Ken Paxton, the Attorney General. So that is the, why we can't do it.
And that was a big issue back in 2019, because every appraisal district, right at the time when this was going on, you're talking March, right, when it was officially declared, I guess in around the area, right? April is when we sent out our notices. So everybody was sitting there waiting and waiting and waiting. Are we going to hear something? Well, I don't know what the date on that letter was, but I know it was far past March, I believe. Yeah. So with our deadline timelines, and we have to try to stay with them, because if we go past our deadlines, we're pushing you all past your deadlines, because you all need our numbers in order to continue. You can use preliminary, but trust me, sometimes you don't want to use preliminary. You want to know the real, because you still have to account for some changes in there. Okay. So, we all were on hold that year. We were all holding back. And then finally, by the time our timelines were done, we were starting to send them out. There were some places that didn't send them out till, my God, May something, and some in June, because they were trying to see how hard they can hold back to. The thing is, if you have a big district, which I thought I did, he has a lot bigger one, it can push a lot of people back. So our thing was to make sure everybody had their valuations during that time. And on the next slide, and Richard and I differed in this one. I wanted to show y'all the actual interview that the governor did, but we only paraphrased it. But basically the governor said, the appraisal process is one thing. The taxing entities have the right to lower taxes, their tax rates. So the appraisal process is the appraisal process. All we're doing is setting the value of a piece of property. That's all I do. It doesn't matter if your tax rate is going to be $1 or $3. My job is, what is the value of your property? If you were to sell it tomorrow, what would you sell it for? And like the definition is, if your neighbor sold an exact same house as yours for $100,000, you're not going to settle for 80. You're going to want 100 or more. Why? Because my neighbor got it. Okay. But if y'all will look at this interview by the governor, it will answer a lot of questions. That's all we'll say on that one, right? Yeah, and I think the other thing is always to remember that, and I know y'all do, our hardest thing is always trying to get a taxpayer more than anything to understand that our discussion we want to have with them is, what is your appraised value? What do you think your home is actually? Of course, when the appraised value comes in, they think taxes too, and that's just common nature, that's just human nature would probably be, it's known to do that. But in reality, you would probably want to sell it for what the market is showing at least. I mean, there's some that just want to get out of it, and that we understand.
When people are selling, they want the highest value they can. When they come see me, they want the lowest value. And I understand that, believe me. I know that when I raise somebody's value, I am literally taking money out of their pocket. I do comprehend that. I think we all do. We know what we do. And when somebody comes to my office, the first thing they say is my property taxes are too high. And my response is, you need to go talk to the tax assessor collector because I don't charge taxes. We're here about your value. And they say, well, I'm not going to get any relief over there. The only relief I can get is here. If I can lower my value, I can lower my taxes.
Mr. Garza, the tax assessor does not set the tax rate. It's the individual political subdivisions that set the tax rate, okay?
That is
don't
correct.
blame the assessor.
Yes, that Commissioner Garza, that is absolutely correct. However, I'm not going to send a property owner to the county judge or the county commissioners. I'm going to send them to the tax assessor collector. He is elected as well, so he's the one responsible for collecting that tax. Going on. Simple question. My value is based on January 1 of every year. So whatever the trend is on January 1, that's what I have to look at. Okay. So whatever prices are, and if you look at the next screen, and it's just we'll consider anything and everything that would come into play as far as somebody's value. So yes, we do. Mhm. Okay. When I say $1,000, I mean $1,000 in value. Okay. Which when you take $1,000 in value, you're probably talking about $30 in taxes, approximately. And because of that, the escrow, it's only an estimation. The bank or the property owner, we have all our values online. They can look at our website and say, what is my value for this year? And a lot of banks do that. They have a certain division in their office that does that. But again, the $1,000 is not $1,000 in taxes. It's $1,000 in value. Okay. And just here, looking at McAllen, Brownsville, Harlingen, Hidalgo County, Cameron County, they all increase. Properties are selling for more money. Right now, if you put your house up for sale, you'll probably sell it within a week right now. Why? Because banks are lending money. People are looking for properties. It's just a seller's market right now. And I understand your statement, and I don't disagree with you. However, the way the code is written, I have to look at what are properties of your type selling for today. Yeah. And I don't disagree with you either. If you have your house, and I get, this statement every day, I don't want to sell my house. I'm never going to sell my house. And that's great. I understand that. But at some point, it will sell. And what will it sell for if you were going to sell it today? And that's my job, to find out what would you sell it for today. So.
Also, and just to kind of touch base on it, he asked the question, about the up and down part of it, and I think we answered the up part. But as of January 1, if the market is showing that the sales went back down, that's where in the next year coming, you will see that change in there. If you recall when, what was it, 2007, 2008, when we had the big crash, that was a big one. And, valuations changed quite a bit, probably the hardest part to say that they did was at the island, but, that's a different story there. But in most cases, normal residential did change quite a bit, and they were adjusted. Again, it is a factor we have to look at, and we do understand your concern. It's just on that case. I wanted to answer your question you asked a while ago about the tax bill and not getting your tax bill if it was sent, if you go through an escrow. You had mentioned that. I didn't. Okay. One of the things that you can do is you can always, and a lot of our taxpayers do, they ask us to send them to both parties. We send them to, of course, the one that's going to mainly pay it. That's the number one. But you still have the right to protest. So in a valuation increase, all you got to do is tell, the client just has to tell us to put them down as one to send it to as well, and they will get the statement as well. I mean, it's just it happens, but the main part, especially from the entity side, they want to make sure that they're getting their money timely. And of course, we don't want to disturb it from getting there timely, because then you got P&Is that come in. So it's the one that really, we always say, the one who's going to pay the bill. That's the main one. We get property that's owned by two individuals, and they might be in two different states. We want to put the one that's going to be responsible for it, who's going to pay the bill. So that's the name we really want on there. So, in my count, in my count, yes. And I know we're kind of taking some time here, but just to let you know, the appraisal phase is January to May. Then we have the equalization phase when people protest their value, which is from May to July. Then we have the assessment when the city, the school, and the county calculate the values I have with their budget that they're requiring to see what their tax rate is going to be. That's the assessment phase. And then you have the collection phase. That's where our tax assessor collectors come in and send out the bills and start to collect the money. And the next screen is just telling you how they calculate how much they're going to require to get their budgets. We can move on to the next one. The next screen, sorry. Where do the tax dollars go? And school education in cities, fire, police, protection, water, sewer, all of these things. That's what tax dollars are used for. Streets, I have people coming into the office and say, my street has a bunch of potholes. Who's going to fix them? Well, your city, your school, your city or your county, depending on where you live. And these tax dollars, that's what they're used for. What can the property owner do? When we send out our notices, whether it's him that sends out all of them or me that send out only those that increase by 1,000 or more, contact me, contact our office. If you don't protest your value, if you don't call us, I'm going to leave the value where I put it initially. Whatever value I came up with, that's where it's going to stay. Now, I'm not saying just because you call, I'm going to change it, because I may be right, but there is a possibility that I can change your value if I know a little bit more about your property. Is there any damage to it? Is there, something unique about that property that I need to reduce the value? But I will not know unless you contact us.
Part of the process.
Part of the process, yes, sir. Now, now the questions, if there's any more questions.
And I'm gonna kind of stop there, because this is a topic that can go on forever. And I really appreciate you guys coming and trying to explain, but I can assure you that what came out of the bigger question was whether or not we could, as a region, just freeze the value, and obviously it falls back to whether the state will allow it or not. Right. And we can go into that, because we can certainly look into the white part, and I can assure you that it's going to have repercussions. By what we do today, it's going to affect next year and the next year and the next year. So
right.
I know it's one of those conversations.
And I appreciate the city of Edinburgh in the resolution that they passed, and I did go make a presentation similar to this to them. You know, I understand the politics that's involved in it. And for any city to pass a resolution is fine. It's just, I can't do it. You know, the answer to that question, which everybody's asking is, can I freeze the values? Simply, no. That's the answer that y'all were looking for.
And not to open it any wider, but so the cities have the option of lowering the tax rate and therefore collecting less.
Every entity
Of
has
the
that.
same value. Right?
Every entity, Judge,
Right.
every entity has that option. When they're doing their budget, if they wish to lower their tax rates, they can. But you know, what's going to suffer on the other end of that? For a county, for a city, the taxpayer. So, but yes, can they do that? Yes, they can.
Okay, so I don't want to say is there any more questions, because I know there is and we'll never stop. But I'm gonna limit it at that, and I think you pretty much covered it. I think that you guys, you know, have a big responsibility. And speaking from Willacy County, I think our appraisal district does a good job over there, and I'm sure you guys do as well here, both in Hidalgo.
Just like to add, if there's anyone that wishes for us to go and make a presentation at their respective entities, we'll be happy to do that. He beat me to that punch. I was going to end it on that note as well. I mean, we're actually here for you all, you know, as well. I mean, and a lot of times, you know, if we're needed to go and do a presentation at your entity that you represent, well, that's what we're for. I did one for PISD just recently, and you know, it was fine. They had some other concern, but you know, it's on a different matter. But I mean, that's what we're here for.
So that's good. So all of the members that are representing both counties and cities, you just had an open invitation to go make a presentation to the city councils and the city county commissioner or any other governmental entity, right? Schools or whatever. All right. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you all for allowing us.
Appreciate it.
We're going to dismiss ourselves, okay?
Yes. Thank you. Okay. So what I'm going to do, because we spend time, and I can tell you, we're in a conference right now at the island, and I can tell you that discussion on redistricting is not going to be any less than this, so we can be here for hours. What I'm going to propose is that we schedule that for the next meeting or next time, and I'm going to do the same with C as well. C not as much, but B, I can assure you that it's going to be a lengthy discussion, and not that we don't need it, but I think we'll go into 2 or 3 hours if we do that. So with that, we'll go to line item D. Consideration action.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
I think the redistricting now has time. The next meeting won't be until August. And I think there's some information that we need to have that's time relevant.
Yes, and I can tell you, you know, again, I just came from a presentation where redistricting, it might be challenging, and the deadlines that you're accustomed to are probably going to move forward anyway.
Are you available in August, Nina?
Yes, I mean, I'm more than happy to come back and present, and would love the opportunity to talk with you and answer any questions that you have about redistricting. And yes, I think August will work.
Okay.
Thank you for allowing us to do that.
Thank you.
Consider action to appoint board designees and alternate to Texas Association of Regional Councils.
Yes, Mr. President, this is an annual recurring thing that Texas Association of Regional Councils opens up. Current members are Commissioner David Garza and Mayor Darling. So we can continue if they wish to continue, or appoint different members to the Texas.
Do a motion.
Judge, this is Commissioner David Garza. All I can tell you is I've attended every meeting that has been presented by the TARC, either on Zoom or in presence. The last one that we had, we were able to meet in Austin, and a lot of valuable information and direction that Manny was here with me also, and we learned a lot of great things about some of the objectives that we need to be looking at in opportunities, especially with the new CARES Act money that is coming down. So, I would be more than happy to serve unless somebody is very anxious to do it, and no problems with that either.
And thank you for that, Commissioner. We do have a motion on the floor to keep you, and you did make a motion to keep.
Second by Samarito.
All right, so I have a motion and a second. Any more discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And all opposed, say aye. Thank you, Commissioner Garza.
Aye.
Line item number E, consideration
Did that
action.
include, I'm sorry, Judge, did that include Mayor Darling too?
Yes, there was a, yes, sir.
Thank you.
Line item E, consideration and action to approve procurement of new phone system for entire Lower Rio Grande Valley Development Council.
Yes, Mr. President, this item is to request approval to purchase or upgrade our current system. We're recommending Cisco Business Edition 6000. The purchase estimate is going to be $87,879, with more than likely possibility that it would be less than what the price indicates on there. We did do a thorough assessment of 3 vendors. 2 of the vendors met somewhat our specifications. We are selecting Sanchez Global Management under the Texas DIR contract number 4167. And so this is going to be paid for, luckily, under the coronavirus emergency supplemental funding. We were provided with $37,000, the opportunity to apply for $37,000. We did apply, and we secured the funds with an additional $8,000 that was reallocated to us from other regions due to their not meeting the requirements or not applying for the funds. So we are receiving a grand total of $48,000 in total grant funding, which 35% obviously is the grant, and the remainder will be local funds. We're asking for your approval.
Commissioner Garza, move to approve.
Yes.
I'm sorry, come again?
Commissioner Garza, move to approve.
Okay, I have a motion by Commissioner Garza to approve.
Nori Garza, second.
Second by Mr. Troy. Any more discussion?
Yeah, we did out of the 3, we had 2. Well, actually, the one with the wink, it's up there. It should be in your WINC. However, their product did not meet our specifications, and so that's what we're recommending. And they're actually, Cisco is the product, is the actual vendor. These are just distributors that operate locally, an extension of that service.
Okay, so I have a motion and a second. Any more discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And all opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Aye.
Thank you. Line item F, Executive Director report, action may be taken.
Okay. Yes, Mr. President, I'll be brief on these topics. The first item is in memoriam on June 15. We were made aware of the passing of Mr. Richard Hinojosa. Mr. Hinojosa dedicated his life to public service and was a great leader within this organization. For those of you that might not know or know Richard, he served here at the COG as Director of Regional Planning Services, and also a short time as Deputy Executive Director under Mr. Jones, Ken Jones. So we sincerely wish the family the best. Our prayers, hopes and prayers are with the family that they recover from this tremendous loss. He will be missed. And once a cogger, always a cogger. So we want to make sure we represent or note those individuals. Thank you.
We'll go to line item number.
Under executive directors, we did receive about 7 staff new members. Item number 2, just for the board of directors, we are going through our auditing process. And so all the board of directors, you all will receive a survey that's going to be mailed to you by the auditor. We would greatly appreciate your response in a timely manner if possible, so we can finish out the audit quickly. And so we'll be presenting it obviously later on in the year before this council. And also just the last topic just that I wanted to discuss is it goes in what Commissioner Garza was talking about, what we discussed at TARC for the 87 legislature updates and the American Rescue Plan. One of the topics that I did want to cover with you is that the H Bill 5, which as you all know, it deals with the expansion of broadband services to certain areas, and particularly rural areas. And so just wanted to offer our services so we could be a platform for any local government or even private organization. Obviously it's going to take a combination of both to implement this type of project, especially in the rural areas. So luckily and fortunately that the pandemic is still upon us, but what we know that this service is highly needed so that's already well noted. And so for us to do or conduct an assessment, we can forego that. We don't necessarily have to do that, but we do have to identify weak areas through possibly a propagation study or visibility study, even a market analysis on the different types of technology, Wi-Fi versus cyber. So it's not cyber is pretty expensive. And so this ties into the funds that will be disseminated or allocated by the American Rescue Plan or even the Infrastructure Recovery Plan. And so again, we welcome the opportunity. I know four COGs have already ventured into this. A few have actually tackled and they are spearheading the implementation of it. But for the most part, the other 2 to 3 are providing the COG as the platform to connect the local governments with the private sector to be able to implement this project for not only cities but also the rural areas. So we welcome the opportunity, and we're here to serve and provide that platform for anybody that would want to do that. Okay. I'd love to coordinate that.
Good idea. Yeah. Is there anyone heard? I know, like, for instance, in Willacy County, in North Alamo Water, as an example, in practically all our rural area. And I've already reached out to them pertaining to that.
And just
water.
Yes, and then so everybody's aware that we have implemented projects such as these, not necessarily broadband, but interoperable communication for our first responders back in 2004. Since 2004, we've been in the implementation of this type of technology for the first responders on a regional basis. We spend millions of dollars, allocated millions of dollars to the region for that purpose. And currently, we transitioned to a actual full-blown governance, which is the Rio Grande Valley Communications Group, which oversees that, took it over and oversees that aspect. So we do have experience in bringing people together and even implementation of projects as large as these. So don't hesitate to give us a call so we can coordinate. Thank you.
Let me just ask real quick to the cities. Have you all received money yet? Not yet. It's coming through TDM accordingly, right? through the American Rescue Plan Act. You have received the monies already for that. But how about the other cities? You mentioned how about the other cities? Anybody out there? Lyford?
No, sir, I don't think any of the small cities under 50,000 have received it yet.
And I'm just asking because I think in this setting, it would be good to find out whether cities, or some cities are, some cities aren't. Maybe they're basing it on population. I don't know. I know that the counties have. They came directly from the Treasury. But the cities, at least in Willacy, I'm still under understanding they have not. It's unclear as to how that's going to come through. But anyway, that's a big chunk of
Yes,
Mayor
sir.
Darling, it's at the governor's desk, okay? He's got all the money.
Yes, and then in that topic, Judge, I did provide a list of all the, small to mid cities that will be receiving a somewhat of a couple of $1 million each of the cities. And so I went over to the list. I can, forward it to everybody so they can be aware of which ones they are. So it involves pretty much all the 3 counties, cities within the 3 counties that are receiving a portion of that. Obviously not billions, but a couple of millions.
So just to be clear, so you're saying that some cities are getting it and not others?
Well, some cities are within the 3 county area are receiving funds. As I reported back when I did is Texas is receiving approximately 16.7 billion overall, and locally we're receiving about 10 billion in American Rescue Plan funds. And so the list real quick is Alamo, Alton, Bayview, Donna, Head Couch, Elsa, Granjeno, Hidalgo, City of Hidalgo, Indian Lake, La Feria, La Joya, Laguna Vista, Los Fresnos, Lyford, Mercedes, Palmview, Palmhurst, Palm Valley, Palmview, Benitas, Primera, Progreso Lakes, Progreso, Rancho Viejos, Raymondville, Rio Hondo, San Juan, Santa Rosa, South Padre Island, Sullivan City, and Weston. And each of those cities are receiving a portion of those millions of dollars.
I think the judge's question was, there any cities out there of that list that have already received the monies?
To our knowledge, they have not received, and due to an update or developments, the state of Texas will receive that, and supposedly they would be the ones allocating the money to those cities.
Manny, so you're saying that in the 3 counties that you represent, rescue plan funds are in the tune of $10 billion across the 3 counties? Does that include the counties, or is it just municipalities?
The counties are receiving, counties and large cities are receiving their own separate dedicated amount. And so don't want to put anybody on the spot, but for example, McAllen is receiving about 42 million alone. And so the larger cities have already a chunk of that allocated, and I don't know if they've received it or not, but that's in the works.
So then a little
Don't
bit over.
forget the school districts, okay? They're receiving a huge amount of that too.
There was a listing.
That was exclusive of all the school districts.
Right. All right. So we go to item number 5, Department Reports, Hayes Community and Economic Development, Mr. Rick Carrera. And I think there's an action item on there.
All right, good afternoon, everybody. Yes, we do have one action item this month. It is to approve entering a contract with Advertier, a local marketing firm. They have been selected through a formal solicitation process. I believe it was an RFP, request for proposal, that we issued a couple months ago. They were the winning firm. This marketing will, the marketing they're going to undertake is to market Explore RGV. That is the website and app and associated collateral. And that firm was chosen by the Regional Tourism and Travel Advisory Committee. I believe the bid tabs are in your packet. If anybody has any questions.
I so move, Rick Salinas.
Second. Johnny Garcia.
Who's that? Got it. All right. I have a motion and a second. Any more discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And all opposed, same sign. What we're gonna do is just go to the action items. However, before you leave us, in any of the other points that you have there, is there anything that might consider action, that might need to consider action?
No action. They're all just highlights and updates on meetings that are upcoming between now and the next board meeting, since there's no meeting in July.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so we go to line item B in Health and Human Services. Mr. Gonzalez, are you on?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I just want to ask you the same thing. Is there any one of those two that might need action?
No, sir.
All right, so we'll go to line item number C. Thank you, Mr. Gonzalez. Mr. Randall Snyder. And that one is consideration and action to approve purchase of interoperable communications infrastructure equipment.
Yes, sir. Just one action item to consider the action approved purchase of the interoperable communications infrastructure equipment. It'll be purchased under the state grant contract, and essentially what it will do is it's for infrastructure hardware and labor that this purchase will build the capacity for the Edinburgh radio system, which is currently tied to the City of FAR system. So if one goes down, it will ensure that everything continues to operate. And the quote is from the vendor Dally Wells, which is actually the person that installed the original system.
You're asking for approval. Can I entertain a motion?
Eddie Rambo moves.
Have the motion.
Second.
And second by
Johnny Garcia.
Bill, right? Mr. Edward. All right. Any more discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And all opposed, same sign. Motion carries. I'll ask you the same thing, Mr. Snyder. Is there anything that might require action?
No, so there's nothing else that would require action. It's just the general status.
Thank you so much. Line item
Thank you.
D, transportation, Mr. Tom Logan. And there is Valley Metro action items. Consideration and action to approve procurement of on-board camera system upgrade.
Yes, staff requests board approval to purchase the onboard camera system upgrade. This will enable a live streaming and automated downloading of the footage. This will be a great tool for staff to monitor our day-to-day operations and the performance of our staff while they're driving those buses.
Okay, and I'm reading that this will be covered 100% by TxDOT grant.
Yes, we do have a TxDOT grant in place, and it's going to cover at 100%.
Can I entertain a motion to approve?
I move for approval.
By Mayor Boswell and Commissioner.
I'll second. Johnny Garcia.
Thank you. I have a motion and a second. No more discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And all opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you. Line item 2, consideration and action to approve procurement of employee uniforms.
Yes, staff requests board approval to purchase employee uniforms from our existing contract with UniFirst. Uniforms will be issued to drivers, mechanics, dispatchers, call takers, and contracted employees.
Nori Garza, I move for approval.
Johnny Garcia seconds.
I have a motion and a second. Okay. Any more discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And all opposed, same sign. Mr. Logan, any of the others that might consider action?
No action, just a quick report on our service. Year to date, we have 151,000 riders that have utilized our service. Considering that we're still in the pandemic, numbers look good. They keep increasing, small amounts. We do have our Fast Ride micro transit system that it's being utilized for those, especially from the elderly and disabled, to get curb-to-curb service anywhere here in the Valley.
Okay.
Thank you.
And item number 6, new and unfinished business.
I do have a quick reminder for the cities in Hidalgo County and Willacy County. We're on our way to becoming an emergency communication district for 911. This will happen August 31st. And so the city of Weslaco is the remaining city that will approve the last resolution. I want to thank Mayor Suarez for and Mr. Mike Perez, city manager, for allowing or being able to hold a special meeting on that date. And so we're going to be sending out letters to all cities in Hidalgo County and Willacy County, inviting them to a meeting, to our first RGV Emergency Communications District that's going to be held early September. And so I highly recommend that you attend to take part. Is that because that was our goal to have local control, and we can't have local control without participating jurisdictions or cities. So the letters will be sent out to the mayors and the city managers. And so when you receive it, if you have any questions, please feel free to give me a call, me or Randall Snyder. Thank you.
Others will go to line item number 7. Adjourn. So I hereby adjourn the meeting. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you, Judge.
Hey, Sherry, call Debbie Morales.
It's automatic.